Yo, 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 yo.
Yo, yo, yippee, yo.
Yippee, yay, yippee, yo, yay, yippee, yo,
Peter
yay.
Parker,
Pick the pepper.
Pepper, yo, yo.
Grab a
Yo,
seat.
yo,
Thanks,
yo,
I'm
yo.
Dave. Very nice to meet. Where did that come from?
Right. Welcome to the podcast.
That was recorded. Sweet.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast with me, James.
Jamie.
And Mackay.
How's it going?
Hello.
How have we been the past week?
Been good. Busy working.
Busy
usual.
working.
Yeah.
Same.
Uneventful, but
Uneventful.
all
But it did happen.
It did happen.
It did happen.
It certainly did.
There we go. So we had quite good feedback from the last episode that we did. Capitalism, Kill Your Babies, and music.
Oh, no, music.
People seem to like it.
Good.
So that was good. I liked.
Yeah.
We got more views than last time. So there's some progress, or listens, or whatever.
Yeah, that's good. Always good.
Yeah. This week we do actually have a guest. I think that was last week's downfall. We didn't have a guest. We're not in a car. We're on a table. We're in a house.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's fine. So this week
You do that.
we have McAllister, who we found on Fiverr, who Jamie found on Fiverr.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not familiar with Fiverr, I think I introduced you to it.
You did introduce me to it.
Do you know what Fiverr is, Mackay?
I think I've seen like the occasional YouTube videos.
It's like
of random-
PewDiePie with memes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. You basically pay somebody, I think, a minimum of £5 in your
Yeah.
currency or their currency. So in dollars it translates to like £3 something,
Yeah.
but it's $5 for that. I think that's the minimum to do anything.
Yeah.
You can search any kind of service.
There's a lot of things.
There's loads of things. Do you want to list through some of your favourites?
Well,
Some of mine, because it's endless, you know. Some of mine, the ones I was really fascinated with, were people who you can hire to be your friend.
You know, like your girlfriend or
Yeah,
stuff
or like
that.
Instagram girlfriend
yeah,
who
who
would
likes all your
likes all your
photos and-
comments like, "Oh, you look great."
Yeah.
For one, I saw 30 minutes for a £5. And I was
But yeah, I think that's for talking, wasn't it?
talking, yeah, it was
Being an
just being a
understanding.
good friend or
Yeah.
something.
Oh,
What do you mean?
I mean, it's nice in a way, but
they're only doing it for money.
it's very hazy. I don't know
I would be I'd just be interested.
what their
Why?
moral is on it.
Yeah, and like, why? I just can't understand that.
What do you get out of
Yeah,
this?
and how many people are even coming to you asking, you know? And it makes me quite sad that you're in business.
Yeah.
Because people are paying you to be a friend.
I mean, there's people who offer to, I've just looked, offer to, you know, cast demonic
Demonic
curses on
spells
people
and psychics and
a lot of that.
yeah. But today,
Got pretty interesting.
Yeah.
we're talking to somebody who helps you transition from female to male.
Yeah.
Did someone just walk up the drive?
Yeah,
I think
it's
it was
a
the
takeaway.
takeaway guy.
Did I order a takeaway?
No, I must have got the wrong one.
Anyway, helps you transition from female to male.
Yeah.
So we spoke to him on the phone,
Yeah.
and this is what we spoke about, and we'll join you afterwards. How's best to refer you?
I go by Marc or McAllister. Marc is I chose as my middle name, and I go by the pronoun he, him.
Right. Okay.
So that's the best way to refer to me, and most people refer to me as that guy.
Okay. Right. Just wanted to respect that.
I should have asked at the start, to be fair, but yeah.
Something I'd be really interested, because I noticed you had other adverts on Fiverr.
Yeah.
For other things. Which one do you get most inquiries about?
I actually, which is very interesting, is and a lot of the trans men see both of my gigs, right? And they tend to go to that one because they're afraid of the anonymity that goes along with that act.
Right, you cut out.
Oh, sorry. So I have the two men's stylists and the trans men's one, and as well as user testing. My most popular is the men's stylist one, and a lot of the trans men use that gig instead of the trans men's gig because they feel like it's more anonymity, like they would be a bit more anonymous that way.
Right.
And how do you often, is this all done over Fiverr, or would you Skype people as well, like customers?
Oh, definitely. So it's a little bit of everything. I've had this going on for the last 5 years. Like I have my own little website. But most of it depends on the comfortability, where the person is. I used to live in San Francisco. I'm now in Southern California. So sometimes I travel back and forth depending where the person is and if I have to be there anyway. Some people come to me, and if it's more outside the zone, I do it via Skype. It really just depends on the person's comfortability and if they want to meet with me in person or if they just would rather feel comfortable FaceTime or, over online.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. Something else. So you've been helping people transition from male to female.
Yeah. No, from female to male.
From female to male, sorry.
It's her.
Sorry, I keep getting distracted. So you've been helping people transition from female to male.
Yes.
For how long?
A little over 5 years now.
5 years. And this might get quite kind of deep or something. So it's only if you're comfortable with anything. But
let's do it.
Was it mainly out of your own personal experience? Did you feel like when you were transitioning there wasn't that help there or support?
Exactly. Right. It was mainly out of experience because when I was transitioning, I Googled everything, and then when it came to certain things, like when I started my transition, unfortunately I'm one of those people whose family wasn't very supportive. I'm East Indian, and it's just culturally unacceptable. Yeah. So I was on my own, and I had really isolated myself my entire life. So when I started my transition and started to notice, okay, there's not really a lot out there, then I started feeling a lot more comfortable in my skin during hormone replacement therapy. And some of my coworkers that were men were like, look, dude, a disposable razor is not going to cut it. You're cutting your face. Let me help you. Yeah. So I met a lot of great people along the way. And so I thought, hey, I want to be there for someone in the place that like what I needed. Yeah. So that's where it all came from. Because in the female to male community, they tend to be a bit more introverted. And there's just not as much out there. Like a lot of the documentaries are for our sisters that are male to female. Right. And a lot of the services are predominantly that. I'm one of the very few people that offer this service. And so with a lot of trans men, they feel like they need to be discreet because of, just safety in general.
Why do you think that is?
Because using the men's room can be intimidating, and there's still, we live in, well, at least in my country, there's a lot of people where they fear the unknown, and, nobody wants their ass kicked in the bathroom, and nobody wants to feel inferior in that sense that you're less than when you felt that the majority of your life.
That's awful, isn't it?
It's terrible, but unfortunately, that's the world we live in.
Yeah. And how do you think? I understand that you're not a diplomat or a representative of the United States. But how do you think we can be more progressive in that area? How do you think we can ease those tensions? Is it education?
It's honestly, that's 100%. It's education. I'm always open to questions. I'm very open about who I am. It took me a little while, but I am that way because I feel like once someone's educated about your situation, about who you are, they can take that with them. And the uneducated are the ones who do the bashings and make, ignorant comments. It's simply an uneducated comment because you obviously don't know what you're talking about. You haven't lived in my shoes for a day, but if you ask me a question, I'll answer it, and how you take it and digest it is up to you.
Yeah.
Education is huge, and I think it should start maybe as a teenager to explain to other kids that, are teenagers and above that some people are like this, some people aren't. Just feel comfortable and happy in your skin and just let us know who you are. We're not going to judge you,
See, this reminds me a lot at the moment in this country, in the United Kingdom. There's massive protests going on from parents who are protesting against their children being taught about LGBTQI, etc. subjects. And the way I reacted to this, and I read about it, and I thought back to when I was in school, and thought, there was no gay people or transgender people when I went to school. And then I thought, well, of course there was. They just never had the platform or was told it any different. They were, they were showing this kind of what we know, what we're told as perfection or something, that man and woman and straight man and woman together, and I just felt like these protests. I mean, it made me really upset as a human being, because you think back to your school and being at school, and you think, I genuinely can't think of one person that was gay or transgender at school, but of course there were. Of course there were, And I just felt if we weren't so bigoted, if we weren't so up about it, I don't even know. I can't even understand their arguments for not wanting their children. Just like they're too young or something. I don't think you can be young enough.
No, I agree.
I think a lot of parents have this ignorant connotation, and it's not everybody, that if they learn it in school, then they're going to want to become it.
Yeah,
and that's not necessarily how it works. It's like if someone asked me, and I didn't, take it to heart at all. Again, this was just, I was happy they asked me a question. Are you allowed to give blood? And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I be allowed to give blood? Well, isn't it in the blood? No, that's not how it works.
Wow.
There's people that ask things like that. But, when it comes to the parents' protests, I understand you want to protect your kids, but when is it going to be like a culture shock for your kid?
Exactly.
I grew up in a pretty small town. I was probably like the second Indian person in my whole entire high school. So it was very closed off, and so you're constantly walking around in fear of who you are, and just in case someone finds out. So you're living this life where you're just really just coasting through it because you don't want anybody to know who you really are.
Yeah.
You have people like myself as a younger person that I didn't look in the mirror until I started transitioning. I never really knew exactly what I looked like until I started my transition. Really? And when it comes to people and the school process, again, my thing is, hey, let's start it in high school, and then if you need a permission slip, let's do it. If you don't want your kid to take part in it, hey, that's your problem. You have to deal with that. But it should be something that's there, so there's not this ignorance that therefore causes violence.
Yeah. It's funny. It's because these ignorant questions that you get in your life, like the giving blood thing, these could be addressed at such an earlier age.
Exactly.
And so actually, before I get onto this question, because it moves away from.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go on.
When you tell people that you have transitioned to a him, do they already paint a picture of you, of who you are, your likes, dislikes, and everything?
Can you elaborate on that? When do I tell people that I've transitioned?
I mean, you told us that you identify as a him.
Yes.
guys automatically supposed to like football?
Do they assume things
Yeah.
just because
Yeah,
you
assume.
now identify as a him?
Yeah.
Well, I'm very passable. I was an ugly woman. Just kidding. But I'm very passable. So when I tell somebody, like when we're hanging out, and shooting the shit, and some guy's like, "Don't you, those pants are kind of tight. Don't you need to adjust?" I'm like, "Sure, whatever." But when I finally say, "Well, no, there's really not much down there. No matter what, I'll always be bigger than you because I get to pick and choose." You get some people that are kind of thrown back, where they're like, "Seriously?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, I get a lot of people, I think the majority of people that I've run into where we've had these conversations where they didn't know, stare at me for a long time, and then they start asking questions. And then I have other people that fight me on the issue and think I'm pulling their chain. But I've had a lot of people say, good for you to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's because I surround myself by like-minded people. I mean, I've had incidences where I've had people that are just like, what do you think God thinks of this? And stuff like that, where you go into the religious aspect of it. And
are you religious?
I grew up really religiously, and I like to pray to my God, but I'm not extremely religious now.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I think, so to elaborate on Mackay, who just asked that question earlier, I think the point he was trying to hit on was, so you were born a woman,
Yes.
and then you transitioned into a man.
Yes.
And please correct me if I get any of these terms incorrect.
Okay.
So as soon as you then transitioned into a man, did people, whoever those people are, people around you or just people you meet, assume things about your personality, things that you like, just based on the fact that you transitioned into a man?
That's what.
For example, like, oh, because you're a man now, you must like football or, doing this and this.
Oh,
and,
totally. Sorry, I didn't really understand the question entirely, but
all right.
yeah, no. So once I transitioned to a man, I got a lot of "Hey, big guy," because I'm a big guy,
Right.
and I'm like, that's weird. Come help me pick this up. I'm like, you didn't even ask, but okay. There was a lot of that, and I got a substantial pay raise. I left my
Really?
job.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And when I left my job and I started a new job as my new self, my pay rate substantially increased.
Wow. Is that
Never would have. Yeah.
Is that because of a different job, or you basically?
No, same thing, just different company.
Wow. I mean, the only industry that women get paid more is porn.
Yeah.
Isn't that just disgusting?
It is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had a substantial increase in my pay rate, and my partner at the time was pretty pissed off about that. And I'm like, look, I can't help the world's politics. I was shocked, yes, and I took it, of course, but at the same time, it made me angry and it made me sad.
Yeah.
Where I was, as a female, no, you're okay here, it's just your pay rate, and as a tough business person, and in my field, as a female, I was like, they're like, God, she's such a bitch. Don't deal with her. She's so hard to deal with. But once I transitioned into a man, they're like, dude, he's a really good, he's a savvy business guy. You're going to like him a lot.
Isn't that?
So,
yeah.
It was just very interesting how the tables turned.
I can imagine.
Was that hard to get used to? Did you?
It was very hard to get used to.
Yeah.
I felt like I had, they have white privilege, so I felt like I had male privilege.
Absolutely. It's like you have. You don't have innate male privilege. It's like you've.
I mean, you're in a very unique position for it, I guess, because obviously, I was born a male.
Yes.
So all we've known is this way of the world. So it doesn't feel different, but obviously you've come from being a female, so you see both sides of the table. I imagine it is very interesting. Like you say, it would have been hard to get used to.
I think you mean, because I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've always felt like you were a male.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think what Jamie means is that you were society saw
Yeah.
you as a female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were treated as
Exactly.
a female, but now society sees you as a male.
Yeah.
Society treats you as a male. And you
Exactly.
think, wow. That makes
And
me...
as a biological male, this is what you're used to. You know,
Yeah.
you guys
Yeah,
are just like,
exactly.
okay, this is your everyday life.
You know.
And in transitioning into a male, it was just like, so this is really how it is. Like, you hear the talk on TV and you see the feminists and it's like equal pay, and it's like, oh, that's just, you know, just on TV. But holy shit, this is real life.
Wow.
Is there anything you miss being a female?
No. I don't miss it because I didn't feel like I felt like an imposter.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing that I miss because I never really felt female.
Right.
And when I was forced to be female, it just was wrong and it felt dirty.
Yeah. Forgive me if it's already been addressed, but when was it that you transitioned fully?
I transitioned when I'm 39 now, so I transitioned when I was 26.
Right, okay.
And your family...
It took them a long time.
Yeah.
It took them a very, very long time. And I think that's why, well, I know that's why I started, you know, helping people with their transition. So they knew that with the family aspect, they're not alone. And with, you know, the Asian or the Indian culture or the Hindu culture, you know, it's very, what happens at home stays at home. Everything's very hush-hush. Don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to be there for other people that were in my, or still am in my situation when it comes to that.
So, do your family understand, support?
They're trying to, but it's still very hard. So we could be out in public, and my stepmom will still refer to me as she, and people look at her like she's psychotic, which brings me joy in a small, disgusting, sick way.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, they're just like, what is she talking about, you know? But, you know, it's still taking a long time. She's trying, but it's taking a long time. And for my sisters, my older sister is great. She's very understanding, and she's really tried to be there. But my middle sister is having a hard time. She's very Republican and very red in her thinking, and just is having a hard time with it.
I was going to ask, how conservative are your family and whatnot?
My family is very conservative. When my father was alive, just really, really conservative. I'm in parts of Southern California are very conservative.
Right.
You know, this is the land of the Trump sticker. So you know, you can't change everybody, but you could be happy with yourself. And that's the best you could do sometimes.
Yeah.
How do you think your family, so like you said, your stepmom still refers to you as she sometimes. How do you think your family explains your situation to other people, like close friends or whoever?
That's actually an interesting question. I was just thinking about that the other day because you guys, you know, sent me a message, and I'm like, you know, I wonder what they tell people. And I don't know. I don't know what she tells people. I just know, like, when my father was alive, like, my father was sick for a while, and they would tell me, if you're going to come and visit him, can you please shave? And I'm like, you know, fine. And so we wouldn't talk about it. And the thing about the Indian culture is you just don't talk about it. Like, you pretend like it's not there. It's, you know, there's an elephant in the room, but we're going to dance around it, smile, and, you know, eat some naan, and everybody's happy. But so I don't know how they describe it. And, you know, that's actually interesting. Like, that's something I want to ask.
Do you think you ever will?
Ever ask? Oh, definitely. Yeah. Do I think I'll get the truth? Probably not.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. It's astonishing, isn't it? It makes me feel, I don't know. I've never met anybody who's transitioned knowingly or had an in-depth conversation. Although something I keep up to date a lot with politics, and I'm not going to get into a lot of stuff. But even with the protests that I mentioned in this country about in schools and whatnot, there was a lot of talk from gay activists. No. Trans activists against gay activists of just sort of like, you've got your rights now, and that you don't fight for our trans rights. Do you know what I mean? And it was this kind of like solidarity thing. The reason I'm mentioning this is like, do you feel part of that? Do you feel like we're not there yet with trans rights? Because I mean, especially in this country, I'm not sure about United States, but in this country, being gay, of course, is okay.
Yes.
But quote unquote, you know, that's how we see it. Of just like, yeah, gay is okay, you know.
Yeah.
But there's still a bit of weird fog around.
Yeah, there's a lot of misunderstanding.
There's transphobia. There's like people are scared. There's irrational phobia of trans people, like they don't really understand it. You know, and I the reason I brought all this up is like, do you feel part of that? Do you feel like we're not quite there yet?
I don't feel like we're quite there yet, honestly. I think in your country, you're much more progressive than we are. Granted, it's still considered taboo, you know, but once, you know, once I started my transition and I started joining these groups with other guys who have transitioned and they're sharing their stories, you know, in the UK, your SRS, your sexual reassignment surgery, is covered by insurance. That doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
Your top surgery is covered. That doesn't happen here. You could have transitioned and gone into the military here, but you're still kicked out, you know, at the end of the day.
How much?
I mean, we've progressed in the sense of, hey, I don't have to open my app to see where there's a safe bathroom. I could go in the bathroom if there's, you know, a gender-neutral bathroom. But we've only come as long as the gender-neutral bathrooms. One thing people don't really understand is, and a trans activist, her name is Janet Mock, touches on this here and there on some of her talks. She's an executive producer for the show Pose. Is that there's still a line within the LGBTQ community where it's like, you know, oh, you shouldn't be in the men's bathroom, you're a tranny. That's a derogatory term. When you're at a gay club, it's like, why are you here? Go somewhere else. So you feel that divide within your own community.
Yeah. And what? So how much? What I was going to ask, how much is the transitioning? How much does that cost?
Well, your top surgery to remove your breast could be anywhere from 10 to 15,000, and then your bottom surgery is a little tricky, depending on where you go, and that could be up to 100,000, between $80,000 and $100,000.
Wow.
And then what about hormone therapy and stuff?
Hormone therapy is normally covered by insurance in the United States, depending on where you live. But your hormones, your testosterone, every 2 weeks could cost you between $60 and $100.
Wow. So people living in your country in poverty and want to transition simply can't.
Must feel trapped.
Exactly.
They must feel so trapped. And I imagine the suicide rate or mental health issue complications with that must be huge.
Very good point.
You know,
It really is skyrocketed, and it's sad. We do have government funded programs that will cover parts, like may cover your testosterone if the doctor writes it correctly. So if you're like on Medicare or government funded insurance, but poverty wise, you know, I've met people that have been, you know, below the income level and have lived on the streets, and they're like, you know, I'm happy and I make it work. And it's like, you know what, good for you.
Yeah, good on
but
you.
yeah, it's possible. It's impossible to transition if you can't afford it.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of prison stories as well of people who transition. I have heard.
Well, you're kind of in luck because I've been locked up as a transgender male.
Oh, fascinating. So a little bit about me.
A little bit.
A little
bit about me.
So my...
You know, I had my discretions when I was younger, and when I did go into the jail system, it was very interesting. I was there was more verbal abuse than anything else from the guards, but most of the time I was pretty much put away into high security, you know, in the cell 24 hours a day, 23 hours a day, 1 hour by yourself out, because they didn't want me around anybody else.
Oh, so you weren't, it wasn't like you were in max security, that was just because they didn't want you to...
Segregate.
Yeah.
I was segregated in max security because they didn't want anything to happen. But because I could pay for a lawyer, they gave me my hormones. But that was court-ordered because I had a lawyer that was fighting for me at the time.
Right.
But it was a constant, okay, but what do you have downstairs? If you have a penis, you go with the men. If you don't, you're going to be with the women. So with that, I ended up being in a women's maximum security ward.
As a woman?
Yes, they had to classify me as a woman, even though I've transitioned male, I look male, I'm growing a full beard, but I had to be with the women because I did not have bottom surgery.
That was literally it. That's how they clarified.
Exactly.
That must be pretty tough.
Yeah. Wow. Would you want to? Would you want to be in a male prison?
Oh no! I mean, this was an easy ride. I'm not gonna lie to you. I could just, you know, I don't have to deal with the bullshit, you know, with the men. But the male camaraderie is something that you don't get with women. You know, there's just a lot more dramatics. So either way, I just wanted to get my time done and over with.
How long were you in there?
I was there for 6 months.
Right.
And I was fortunate that I was in California. So, you know, we all have our past and we all have our ups and downs. But when it came to that, I was, you know, when I stepped outside the box, I wasn't mad at it. I was like, you know what, this is the best way I could have served my time. I was alone. No one bothered me. I was good. No one touched my private parts. I'm awesome.
And you got your hormone therapy whilst at prison.
My hormone therapy was approved, but it took a court order and a paid attorney to do that. Right. And if I wasn't able to afford a paid attorney, I would end up having to be represented by the Transgender Legal Center if I was able to get a hold of them. The thing is, you know, there's just so many people in so many cases, you know, you have to be able to afford an attorney in order to get what you really need, unfortunately.
Yeah. Wow. So there's a lot of to do. I'm just trying to track back how we got here to this, down this road. So about the mental health side of things, do you know anything on that front? I've only read statistics, and I think they're probably outdated at this point. Is it something that you faced in your own life, and is that something you help?
Yeah, with the clients you have.
Yeah.
I kind of assess a client and kind of see where they're at, and just, you know, I'm there to listen. And if I see some behavior that's concerning, then I have to report it, which I don't want to have to do, but I feel obligated to, because, you know, we all need help in our own ways, and hurting yourself is just not really the answer. You know, I have to remind the client that you're on this great path of being your authentic self, and we could do this together. You know, there will be bumps in the road, but there's always going to be someone here for you. And I think during a transition, that's the most important thing, is to feel like you have somebody. Yeah. And to feel like you have someone to lean on. I struggled with depression and anxiety my entire life. And when it came to the point where I started my transition, most people ask, what made you start your transition? And I just came to the point in my life where I just was done lying to myself. And I couldn't live like that any longer. I couldn't live pretending to be someone that I'm not. And I was just sick, and it just made me physically ill when someone would call me she or her, or, why do you dress like a guy? Like, after a while, I couldn't deal with it anymore. And so I had to do this for me.
Yeah. And do you think most people who transition go through that? Like, you have to hit that low as a motivation to change things? Yeah.
Everyone's transition is different. You have a lot of people who say exactly what I just said. You come to a point where it's a do or die moment. You have other people that have supportive family, and they're like, hey, I felt a little different, and they go along, they just like, okay, well, let's start this process with your family and see how it is. But everyone comes to their own moment where it's just enough is enough, or they're just like, okay, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Is there an age group that you kind of speak to more than other age groups?
My age group is early 20s, early 30s. I've recently started working with kids in the last 3 years with parents who have kids who are transgender, which has been a very interesting process. And most of that is, confirming what's going on at home, in the sense of, is there something wrong with my kid? What did I do wrong? And it's like, you didn't do anything wrong, but here are the resources you could talk to.
So they blame themselves, a lot of the parents?
A lot of parents blame themselves, wondering what they could do wrong, or they're like, well, I'm just going to force her to wear girl clothes, even though she doesn't want to. And I'm like, you're going to do more harm than good, just so you know.
Yeah.
And on social media, I've had people reach out to me, and that's kind of how the ball started rolling with dealing with kids. But my majority of age range is early 20s, early 30s.
What about older?
I haven't gotten anybody older than, I think my oldest client is 45.
Right.
I did hear recently in my local area, actually, one of the schools, primary schools, there's a kid in year 6 who's, I think, transitioning from a female to a male in year 6.
I'm sorry, you cut out. Can you repeat that?
It was just talking about a thing I've heard about in my local town. There's a kid in year 6, I'm not sure what grade that equivalents to in America.
10 years old.
Yeah. Who's transitioning from a female to a male. No, a male to a female, sorry. So I don't know if she gets much support about that. Oh. Hello?
I didn't get the first part of that. Sorry.
Yeah, there's poor connection.
Right. Pause. I'll cut this out. Pause. Say again. Go on.
Sorry.
It's alright.
There's a child in year 6, which is equivalent to around 10 years old, I think, who's transitioning from a male to a female in a school in my local area. I'm not sure how much support she'd get in a school system. I mean, I don't know if you'd have any insight. I know we touched on it a bit earlier.
It's do you want me to go ahead and answer?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. It's interesting because local areas, if you reach out to the LGBTQ center, they'll have an advocate that will go into the school and help with the process. It just depends on what, the parents' set of rules are, or where they want their goals to be with their child. Some people are like, I have one female to male child's parents. They're like, okay, well, we'll make the complete transition when you're 10. We'll do it legally and everything, but right now we'll call you Charlie.
Right.
But we'll discuss it with the school and the teachers. So a representative from the center came in and just really did the whole, what are we going to do to make this safe? So he uses the teacher's restroom instead of the boys or girls restroom. And kids are much more receptive to the change than they are anything else. A lot of the backlash comes from a parent's point of view, I've noticed.
Okay.
How do you mean?
It's, I had, about the kid I was just talking about, he told me, he's just like, one of the girls said that their mom and dad said I was weird or I'm a freak. And I'm like, well, you're not a weird and you're not a freak. They're weird. They're a freak. So for saying that. So it comes like my parents' opinion of you is this. So how is that going to influence my behavior towards you? Yeah. My parents say I can't be around you. So, but the kids are actually, it's been pretty amazing to watch these young kids in, elementary, kind of just rally around this one kid and say, oh yeah, well, here comes Charlie. And then when Charlie tries to go in the girls' bathroom, they're like, Charlie, you can't come to the girls' bathroom. And Charlie just looks at the girls and says, look, I'm a tomboy, so I could use your bathroom. Charlie has all the confidence in the world, and I wish I had confidence like Charlie, but, I just hope that confidence later on down the line doesn't get stomped on.
Yeah. That's astonishing as well, because the biggest criticism you hear, as in general, from people against teaching LGBTQI, plus, in schools and raising that awareness is that, oh, you're going to confuse the child, you're going to confuse the kids, when actually it's very simple to explain to them.
Yeah.
And kids get it, kids understand. I just don't, it's like you said, it's mainly the parents who create that backlash.
Exactly. And, kids are curious by nature, so they're going to ask questions. It's up to you on how you answer them.
Yeah.
Are you going to answer them diplomatically to let them make their own decision, or are you going to force your view on it?
Yeah. Do you think that's when we mentioned earlier about how there's still a long way to go? Maybe that's one of the problems. It's the parents. It's that parents' generation.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more of a generational thing, maybe. Is it possible?
I agree 100%. There's the generational gap. Like, I've worked with parents who are... Charlie's parents are probably one of the most amazing parents I've worked with. They sat down. They've had their moment of mourning for who their child used to be and who their child is now becoming. Which is probably hard for a parent. I don't know. I'm not a parent. But they support him in what his plan is. Yeah. When it comes later on down the line, and they're educating themselves. I have other parents that are just very confused and still kind of blame themselves, but know that. But excuse me, I don't mean to mumble. But where their fears are the most is how cruel the world can be.
Yeah.
And they just don't want their child to be hurt.
Yeah. Do you think it's better in the long run to transition when you're a child? Or do you think everyone's journey is individual?
I think everyone's journey is individual.
Right.
And your support system is what is going to help you along the way.
Yeah. Wow. To cycle back, when we spoke about religion and God, and when somebody asked you, what do you think God thinks about it? What do you think your God thinks about it?
My God is happy as long as I am happy and I'm fulfilling myself and taking care of myself, and I'm not killing or hurting anybody in the long run with how I live my life, and I'm content on how I live my life. So my God is okay with my contentment.
Can I ask who your God is? Or...
It's my own God, my own figment of imagination, I guess.
I understand. You don't assign to a deity of... Yeah.
Very well said, yes.
Yeah. I completely understand. I'm in agreement with yours. So, Wow. I think that's... And one more question, actually. Is there anything that is like a big misconception that you would want the whole world just to know? To these questions that you get. I know you're very open and all these things, but correct me if I'm wrong, but surely you want like an assumed amount of knowledge that just like, why don't you get this? You know?
Yeah, instead of having the same questions hit at you all the time.
What is something you would tell to everybody about?
I have. Yeah, no, definitely. I get what you're saying. I have a handful of those. The first one is, just because I am transgender doesn't mean I know Caitlyn Jenner. Or know anybody, everybody. We don't all know each other. You know, that's one thing I get all the time. Do you know Caitlyn Jenner? No.
You don't. Do you actually get asked that?
I don't. I'm sorry. One day I got it so many times I finally said yes. But we don't all know each other.
That's ridiculous.
Why did you get asked that question?
Because they assume since you're transgender, you know everybody else that's transgender.
That's ridiculous.
We're all a gang that's, you know, in a network on LinkedIn that know each other. No, that's not how it works.
Wow.
But I think the biggest misconception is it's easy and that it's your choice. It's not my choice. And it's not easy. They're like, well, you could go change your name and gender. No, that took me 5 years to do that, to get that to do. It's not as easy as you see on TV. Oh, well, you know, you could get your surgeries. It's easy. No, it's not that easy. There's a cycle that you have to go through to even get approved to get these surgeries. And do I really want these surgeries just because I've transitioned hormonally? Do I want surgery? That doesn't make me less of a man and more of a woman, or less of a transgender individual. So you don't have to have surgeries, and it's not as easy as it is, and it's not a choice. Yeah. If I had a choice, I would have been born a man. I would have been a biological man. I would have not had to go through everything I had to go through to get where I am. Granted, that's made me the person I am today, but it's not a choice. And, you know, I'm not a taboo. I don't cross-dress. I'm not a tranny. That's rude. I'm not a cross-dresser. That's rude.
Yeah.
I'm a person.
Yeah.
Not a novelty. So those are my handfuls. I don't know Caitlyn Jenner. I don't know Jazz Jennings. I'm sorry I'm not on TV. But, you know.
You're a person.
I'm a person, and it's not easy. And I think that once Caitlyn Jenner came out, she made it look easy. She made it look like, oh, look, I got all my surgeries and everything. It's not that easy. It takes time. It takes money. And there's a lot of screening that goes into this.
And it takes support, and you know.
And it takes support. And it takes, you know, if I tell you this is who I am, respect the fact that this is who I am. I am not the person that I once was. I am who I am today.
I guess in today's society it takes bravery as well, really.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
It's okay.
Absolutely. I really admire your openness.
Yeah.
You know?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, I think you're a really lovely person.
I think you are too. And to whoever uses the green pen, rock on. I just went out and bought one.
That was Mackay. It was me who had the issue with the green pen.
Mackay, you inspired me.
Why does everyone have issue with that? Everybody mentions that, like, I had the green pen. You got a little green pen. What do you?
It's just kind of odd, bro. You know, I have a black pen and a blue pen, and maybe a red pen if I want to make someone feel bad about their work, but never a green pen. That's not like Switzerland or something.
Okay. One last question.
Go for it.
What is the stupidest comment you've ever had?
Besides, if I know Caitlyn Jenner.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty fucking stupid. Yeah.
I think the most ignorant thing someone has asked me is if I can donate blood.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was like, wow.
How did you answer that?
I said yes, I can't donate blood because, you know, who I am is not, you know, in my blood. That's just a metaphor.
Yeah.
I can't donate blood.
So you were trying to help them.
Yes.
Because I would be worried. I think that's signs of a failed education system.
Exactly.
Say, can you donate
big sign.
blood?
It's like, you know, did you take biology?
Exactly.
Do you know how
so it took
humans work?
a little bit of slow talking and a lot of time to explain that I can donate blood. And I think that has to be the most ignorant comment that I've received.
Oh, you had a dog.
or something.
What a lovely man.
He was a nice guy.
He was good, yeah.
Very nice guy.
Yeah.
Seemed very positive.
Had a very nice demeanour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd just love to hang out with him.
Yeah, he seems like a really nice guy.
He's a lovely guy. Wow.
But yeah, there's a lot of interesting points there, really.
Yeah.
Probably should have brought like my nephew. I say nephew now. That she was born a female, and he always wants to be called he
you
and
told
not
me
she.
this. You told me this.
Yeah.
How is what's that? Without giving too much away.
I mean, everyone in the family, apart from like her grandpa, his grandparents,
the elder.
Yeah.
Again, a generation thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
They keep on calling him her, and like to be honest, like so do I. But that's just I'm not used to saying.
Yeah, I think people.
But,
I think people who have transitioned know this though. They sort of. It's not like the way it's painted is like all these crazy transgender people and or misgendering. I don't think that happens. I think the majority of people are really understanding of like, hey, you've known me as a guy.
I'm like intrigued.
Yeah.
About it, yeah.
You've known me as a guy for 20 years. Of course, you're going to say him.
Yeah.
All right. It takes time.
Yeah.
You know, and I just don't think it helps. I think a lot of people stoke those flames of like, oh, did you just assume my gender?
Yeah, there is those.
Of course, that exists.
Yeah.
But to whitewash every transitioned person as that is so backwards.
Stupid.
Yeah. Wow, but I learnt a lot.
Yeah.
I learnt a lot.
Really interesting.
Yeah, and I think what he does is fundamentally a really good thing.
Yeah. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Very
Especially with children.
Yeah.
Because I that's why I asked. I agree. I even said it to him. Do you think it's everyone's individual path? You know, but at least, and he was like, absolutely. And I'll let him speak on that. I don't know anything about it. But I think we should at least open that opportunity up to children.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not an expertise. I'm going to leave it to people who are in that position to talk about it. You know, but we should at least open up that opportunity to children so they can choose.
Like we were talking about education.
Yeah.
So like all stems from.
Yeah.
I mean, all my nephew's teachers always call him. So they seem pretty.
Are they on board
open.
with it?
Yeah.
That's good.
Has there been any hormone? Well, how old is?
He's only like I think 9 or 10.
9 or 10.
So very young.
Yeah.
So.
When's the earliest you can start? There's
I
a
don't
time,
know.
and the earlier. The thing is, the earlier you're the better. And I only know this because I've watched documentaries on it.
I'll say
and
like
read about it.
Before puberty, before everything starts.
You can actually change things.
Yeah.
The earlier the better, weirdly. But I suppose it's on everyone's individual path.
Yeah.
Which this documentary was highlighting. It was mainly about the parents, really, and their children who were transitioning. But this pressure on the parents of like having a 6-year-old who wants to transition. And in the back of their heads, they want to be fully supportive. Like, what if they change their minds?
I think that would be like the main thing if I had a kid.
Yeah.
That would be like the main thing in my head. Like, what if later on in life they regret this for what reason?
Which I guess again leads back to education because
if the information was there and they fully understood what was going on,
exactly.
Nothing to regret.
There's it's not going to be a little phase where they feel it's like
That's the thing as well. Oh, I think it's just a phase.
Yeah.
Oh, with everything, homosexuality, everything. You know, just it's just a phase. It's just like I think they know.
Yeah.
You know, let's ask them because they know. Yeah. If it's a phase, you know. I don't know. But really, that's fascinating. And the business as well. I mean, I hope he makes. We never asked, but I hope he makes some money.
Yeah.
And I hope
so.
Things can. But you know that you just it's feeling you know he wasn't doing it for money.
No.
You know, it was
from a sincere place.
Yeah,
he's experienced it.
Absolutely.
So like he had a hard time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
With his came from quite a conservative Indian family.
Yeah.
And all these things and. Yeah.
It's admirable.
Very admirable. You can tell that he's probably been through things.
Yeah.
We know that he's been through things. Transitioning, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
You know, and all these things, you know. But he's come out, and he probably knows where he's been and what's happened to him because it's him. But come out the other end of it, you know. Quite a very admirable human being, I thought.
Yeah, I think so.
seemed very happy and chipper.
Pardon?
He seemed very happy and chipper.
Yeah, and he had dogs.
And he did have dogs, so that always makes everything better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this was... What episode are we on?
4?
We're the 4th episode.
I guess 3.
Because
Yeah.
this was the 3rd episode of the Podcast. Thank you for joining. Contact information is in the usual places, especially... he's not Marc.
Marc was one of...
Marc was his middle name.
I don't know.
Okay.
I apologise if you're listening. I've forgotten. I think he said it.
I'm sure he said Marc.
Yeah.
But as a middle name, I thought he chose as a middle name.
I don't know. McAllister.
McAllister.
See, I had...
Let's just call him M.
Let's just call him M. The lovely person we spoke to, his information is down there as well. His website, his Instagram. Again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yep. Ta-ra.
Take care, friends.